What we originally looked at when we were submitting a budget was basically submitting a budget as a lump sum. Now we'll look at how you can allocate your costs or revenue across periods using the budget allocation feature. So the first question is, what is budget allocation? So basically, budget allocation is a method of distributing your budget amounts over specific periods of time. And just note that the feature is optional. Two things that you get out of allocating your budget is basically control at different levels. So if you want to allocate your budget monthly, you can control things so you're not overrunning your budget monthly rather than in a lump sum, which is the default setting in Dynamics AX. The other reason why you typically allocate is so you can analyze where you're at with the budget as well. So if you're allowing overruns and you just want to see how you're trending per month, budget allocation is a good feature to use. So with that being said, let's get into some of the key do's and don'ts around allocating. Before we get started in demonstrating this functionality, I just want to talk about a couple of key pieces of information. So the first one is allocation is based on your general ledger fiscal calendar. What this means is basically there's a fiscal calendar that you set up under GL Ledger Setup Ledger. And when you define this is how the project module knows how long a year is, how long a period is, how long a quarter is. So it's not information that you actually define on your project, it's set up in the GL. And then this bullet, allocation period type cannot change. This basically means if you decide to allocate by period or quarterly or whatever, if you do a revision, you cannot adjust that allocation period type. Your budget control interval is important when it comes to allocation. So budget control intervals are basically how you're controlling your budget. So what we originally set in our previous example was just to have it look at the total budget. But you can have it look at like project to date or year to date, etc. So it's just the way that you're controlling your budget. So when you're allocating, the budget control interval is very important in how you're looking at the budget. You can adjust the system provided allocations. So when we walk through the upcoming demonstration, you'll see how the system provides a bunch of numbers to allocate. And if you don't like what they say, you can override them. All right, so we'll go ahead and demonstrate allocating a project budget. And what we'll do is we'll work with an existing project and we'll create a revenue budget. And then we'll allocate that revenue across a year. And we won't do a calendar year, we'll actually just go a year from the project start date. And then we'll adjust the budget control intervals so it's actually not looking at the budget in lump sum, rather we'll work monthly. And then we'll post a transaction just so you can see how that budget control interval is looking at that allocation that we've put into the system. All right, so let's go ahead and demonstrate allocating a project budget. What you're looking at here is the project details form. And basically I created a project and we called it developer support and it's -yearly contract. So Contoso USA actually has a developer support team where they'll just do custom development work or troubleshoot whatever you need them to troubleshoot, and they set up yearly contracts. So basically this project reflects the work going towards that, and City Manufacturing is the client that this project is associated with, and they have a $120,000 budget to have developer support for 1 year, starting on 4/1/2016. So basically what we're going to do is create a budget for that $120,000 that we can bill City Manufacturing for. And City Manufacturing asked us to basically make sure that we're not exceeding $10,000 per period for the entire year, because they have $10,000 a month basically to allocate towards developer support. So we'll go ahead and configure budgeting to meet the requests of City Manufacturing. So the first thing that we're going to look at is that the project budget button is glowing, and it is, which means that we have budgeting turned on for this project. If you don't remember, there's the project budget and forecast tab down here, and use budget control is what enables this button. Then basically we're going to look at what transaction types we want to control, and we're not worried about a cost budget in this case. We want to enforce the revenue budget, and we want to make sure that we're warning if we're going to overrun the budget. You could do a hard stop if you want to, but for this case, we'll just overrun it with a warning. And then there's different options here. There's project to date, year to date, total year, total budget, current period. But this is how you're going to control the budget, and we're going to look at it from a period standpoint. So whatever part of the budget is allocated to the specific period we're in, that's the budget that we don't want to overrun or that we should evaluate against. So I have my parameters set, and now I'm going to go enter a new budget by going to the project budget button. It's a mouthful. What I'll do here is I'll go ahead and shrink the costs fast tab, and we'll just work with the revenue one. And we're only going to be doing one type of work here, which is development. So I'm just going to pick the ERP development category, and we're going to say $120,000. All right. So from here, this would be basically, if we submitted this anyways, this would be basically submitting a $120,000 lump sum budget that can just go over the life of the project. There's no allocation, there's no nothing. If you want to allocate this budget over specific blocks of time, you can. And you're going to be up on the action menu under the allocate group. You're going to hit allocate budget to do so. So from here, you'll notice that the date's defaulted in for you. And by default, it just picks the start and the end date of your year based on the fiscal calendar that you have set up in the GL. And these first three fields are all based off that fiscal calendar in the GL. So let's just pick 4/1/2016, and we're going to run till 3/31/2017. And now this third field here, the by time period, this is how you want to allocate your budget. So do you want to do it by year, by quarter, by period? And once again, this is all by that general ledger fiscal calendar that you can set up, is how it's figuring out what dates are part of what quarter and how long a period is, etc. So my fiscal calendar is set up as monthly periods. So when I pick by period, it means monthly. Then the third thing or the fourth thing that you have to define is basically the transaction types to allocate. I'm not doing a cost budget, so I don't need to toggle the hour costs, expense costs, item costs on. And the only one I'm really worried about is my hour revenue budget. So I'm going to toggle that on, and I'm going to hit allocate. So what it's showing me here is, first of all, it defaulted to hour revenue, which is nice because that's the one that I'm working with. But if you had other ones like costs that you set up for different transaction types, you'd have to toggle which ones you want to look at. But you can see for 2016, we have $90,000. For 2017, we have $30,000 that are allocated. And if you look at the grid below, it's showing you how much per period, so $10,000 per period. If you had multiple categories, you can actually allocate per category. So you just have to uncheck the all categories and then define what category you want to look at, and it'll show you how it's allocated per category. Same with projects. If you're allocating a budget that spans multiple projects, you can look at it and review it per project and per activity if you want to as well. But in our case, I'm just going to allocate the $10,000 per period. So I'm going to hit OK. And once you're done doing that, you can actually reallocate amounts if you'd like. So you have to select a specific line. You hit the reallocate amounts button. It brings up that form that we were just looking at in the context of a specific project and category. And then these mounts are available to edit, so you can put in different mounts if you want. So for example, in April here, we know that we're going to start mid-month, so maybe we only want to allocate 7 there, and then we want to give the next month $3,000 extra. So we can hit OK as we reallocated, and then from there you completed your allocation, and all you need to do is submit and approve your budget. So we'll submit it. There we go. Now we just got to wait on this workflow status button to turn to approve. All right, so now we're in an approved status here, and we can see that the $120,000 should be, or we should see, we'll go take a look and see if the $120,000 is active. And to do so, you can hit your project budget balances button, and it's going to show you your revenue budget, and we can see that we have $120,000 worth of approved budget, and that's over the lifetime of this project. You can work with these filters up here, and let's just do project to date. We can see there's our $7,000 because we we did that manual allocation of 7,000, and then the next period we did 13. And there's a custom range as well. So if we go from 5/1 to 5, I don't know how many days are in that period, but we'll hit this button and you can see that the next period is $13,000. So where that's valuable is if we go back to our project and now we're working with the budget control, you can either, a good example would be project to date or current period. I guess year to date would work out as well. But we'll just work with the current period control. So it's going to look at our budget for this current period and evaluate or control things based upon that current period. So if I go in and just post a quick hours journal, and we have to work with the category ERP Dev, and we have 7,000 for this period. Let's see what we got here. It is going to be 3,500 for 10 hours, so let's try and do 21 hours. So when I try and post this, this is what, when you set it to warning, this is what you're going to see. So if I post, it's going to go, all right, it posted, but you got some details. It's telling you the entry for category ERP Dev on project 205 caused the revenue budget to exceed by $350. And then it repeats it a couple times, but it goes, the journal has been posted. If you had it at the other option, which is the error out, this would not have posted. It would have given you the same error, but just told you that it prevented you from posting. So now if we back up a second, and the only reason we're getting an error there is because our budget control interval is set to current period. If we had this set to total budget, it would have allowed us to post because we have $120,000 to fill up or fill the budget, or $120,000 revenue budget on this project. So in reality, the budget hasn't been exceeded, but for this period, it has been. So if we go ahead and look at the control tab again and go look at the project budget balances and the revenue tab, because we have a revenue budget, we can see that we have a lot of the budget remaining. But if we look at this from a project to date view, yeah, we're exceeded by $350. So it's just a good indicator of how you're tracking per period if you allocate, and then you can use the control functionality to help better understand or better warn when you are going over your monthly or quarterly or whatever it is you allocated budget. So that's just a quick view of allocation.